Let's see, finding a server, logged onto server.
I'll wait
Okay.
to ask what I want to ask after it's over.
Fair enough, fair enough. Okie dokie. So, looks like we're going okay, so now I just check that everybody is logged in and is seeing what they should be seeing.
Ooh, I forgot Siren Escape.
Yep.
1, 2, 3,
The
4, 5,
holographic
6.
torpedoes obviously working.
Oh, you just went a bit robotic then.
Did I?
Navis will now be playing Hello.
It's fine to
Yay.
everyone except you. I didn't hear any issues, David.
It's part of the changeling system. Sorry, the human system.
The definitely
Sorry,
human
on
system.
the
There's
train.
nothing wrong here. Why are you looking at me like this? Okay, so everybody is into Foundry okay?
Yep.
Alright, and everybody who wants to is attached to Sirenscape okay and is getting something coming through.
Yep.
Yep.
Okay.
The sounds of Bravo doing a good job.
The thing is running smoothly, purring like a kitten, Captain.
Well, it will be until we start the actual episode.
Well, exactly. We'll get there when we get there. So, for the meantime, in order to get there as quickly as we can, let's turn off the familiar ship rumble. Button at ready, Captain, says Claude. Let's turn the Great Adventure off, and let's jump to our intro video. Whoa. Unless, of course, somebody passes through a noisy, windy tunnel. Everybody good? Everybody's good. All right, then. To the intro video. And hello everybody, welcome along to the continuing adventures of the USS Navis. Thanks, as per usual, for the intro sequence. Go to Gareth, and of course to Kevin MacLeod for giving us the music for it. Thank you, Kevin. Thank you, Gareth. Unfortunately for Gareth, I've just noticed that he does have a bit of extra work to do in regards to the old intro video, because John has left and we have a mic.
Yeah, I would have got it done already, but I've spent half of the time since last session ill and the other half in the field.
So that's fine
I mean-
as far as excuses go.
I was going to
Ranks
save
are
confusion. We can,
also wrong as well.
I was saying just save confusion. We can just call Mike John for the meantime until we can get him on the credits.
Any objections? Speak up now. And live long and prosper to you, suitable substrate. Welcome back. Thanks for joining us. The gang are all back again. Yay. Whew.
The boys are back in town.
Indeed.
God, no.
And Edwards is in the brig for causing trouble?
Yep.
So a regular Tuesday then.
That's when
Pretty
I was
much.
playing. That's when I was playing classical music.
Bad Klingon
Yeah.
opera.
Lighting a cannon in the library. Ooh, that didn't make the librarian happy. That'll be why you're there for a while.
I think I'm missing something the rest of you guys are talking about.
I mean, I'm missing it too. I have no clue what he's talking about.
It's Navis, so just
Okay.
not
Smile,
and go,
nod.
Yes, Navis. Well done,
It's
Navis.
not the first time I've missed a reference, so I had to be sure.
Just smile, nod, and say something to do with gravy.
I was just smile, nod, and
There was a
reach for the
couple of
fire
good
alarm.
Law Reloaded videos this week.
Oh, of course. Law Reloaded, I forgot about them. Well, there you go. It was a reference that I missed. Well, in any case, quick check that everybody is doing okay. We seem to be streaming alright, no hiccups. Shaun, how are things looking for you at the moment?
I've had to connect through 4G, so terrible.
Okay. Alright, we'll do what we can for as long as we can.
It's alright, I'm waiting for about 15-20 minutes, then a knock will appear at my door.
Please, Mr. Webby, can I have some internet?
Well, whatever works. Whatever works, my lad. We'll see how much we go on. In that case, let's try and get this going as quick as we possibly can, because today's session is part 2 of episode 32, We Are the Stars That Sing With Our Lives, and we are in the middle, or very much hopefully not quite in the middle, but somewhere near the end, of an evacuation. So let's quickly switch maps a little bit to understand the gravity of the situation in more than one sense. We have a... I know, right? I'll get my coat. You guys are alright doing this without me, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
cool. Okay, off you
easy,
go.
I think. We just guess. We blow our
In other
shoot the
news-
star.
I used the quantum moss torpedo to shoot into the anomaly.
In other news, by Captain's Log, it's actually not a bad amount of fun. But, playing the actual non-solo rules for Star Trek Adventurers, let's get back into what we were doing. This planet, Alpha-Toriu 2, was going to be set up by Starfleet and civilian science as a monitoring station for a star which was apparently a bit young to already be undergoing gravitational collapse. The kind of gravitational collapse not in the formation of a star, but usually at the subject to its end. So, they were going to be setting up a monitoring post on the second planet in order to get a better idea of, or just to collate data as to what might be going on. But in surveying the planet, they managed to knock through into constructed underground chambers. Therefore, it became an archaeological expedition rather than a astronomical expedition. But the sun, the star Alpha-Toriu, has been undergoing rapid changes recently, which seems to indicate that it is on the verge of gravitational collapse, whereupon it will become maybe a supernova of some sort. So, evacuation has been requested. There's already one ship in the system, the USS Mogami, who are mostly seconded to the Starfleet Corps of Engineers, who have been helping dismantle the science station on board the second planet, but they need help because time is counting down. Now then, let's see. Besides the evacuation process, because of the ambient electromagnetic interference in the system, usage of transporters are spotty and iffy, and therefore not recommended for transporting living beings. Therefore, the entire evacuation has to be done via shuttlecraft. Not only that, but we have apparently a mysterious anomaly somewhere inside of the main star itself, as also demonstrated by the fact that it has a number? What the heck's a number, Matt?
I think we should definitely have numbers now.
We need to invent a new species just to call it a numble.
It's a distant relative of the triple.
Well, tribbles and numbles. Ooh, maybe numbles were the carnivore on the Tribble planet that were about to hunt the tribbles to extinction. But then other people came in and decided that because the tribbles are cute and fluffy, they should be saved, and numbles should be have their numbers curtailed.
Whereas tribbles make most people feel happy and contented, numbles repress and dumb down the emotions, hence the num of numbles.
Aha!
I was going to say, you bring them out in this day and age, every commercial enterprise would buy them up. It would be like the soaking up of all the all the grief and horror in office blocks.
I like how, in attempting to create to rapid fire this summary, we've gone and created a new alien race or a new alien creature.
I think I just saw the tumbleweed go past again.
I think I did too.
No, it's the numbleweed.
Oh, the rapid fire wit I have forgotten.
So tonight is going to be an exceptionally long night. It's going to take 4 hours.
All
to
right,
get through
then.
an introduction.
On an unrelated note, my next science plan is the pun moss.
I thought you were going to bring Numbles back. Okay. Bit disappointed now.
No, I'm the plant doctor. I'll let Nova deal with the pets.
Excuse me. Woo! Right. Sorry. No. Where was I? Strange anomaly inside of star. That was it. Right. Yes. The number of satellites, rather the number of satellites around the star indicates that there is some kind of gravitational mass inside of the star, just slightly off of the star's center. Why or how something is in there is entirely uncertain at this point, but you guys have been working from the hypothesis that this may or may not have something to do with the Tilical, which is the ancient alien race that you've found plenty of remnants of within the Shackleton Expanse, which is where the Alpha Taurius system also resides. But you've yet to find any evidence of living ones, except for a few weird telepathic echoes or signals or something that Nova and her ilk, mostly Nova, have been hearing, or sensing rather, I should say. So, I believe in an effort to try and investigate this strange anomaly and maybe to set up some kind of communication with Nova and Fazanan, if I can zoom him in, elected to take the Samson, the Navis's attack fighter, because, you know, take the attack fighter rather than the runabout. But the runabout was being used to evacuate folks from the planet, so there you go. And it was an excuse to bring out the Samson again. Samson was flown close to the star in order to analyze the satellites and maybe whatever's going on in the middle, and you have found something. Meanwhile, if I remember correctly, the science and engineering guys on the Navis had set up a rather ingenious idea to help speed up the recovery of the equipment, the data, and also the actual artifacts found on the second planet by modifying the tractor beam so that they pointed it towards the planet without actually making contact with the ground, and set it so that it was able to draw up any object that was thrown into it, but not so fast that it would make things splatter and crash, but obviously powerful enough to overcome the planet's own gravity. That's about the summation of efforts so far. Have I missed anything to anyone's recollection?
We just had a gravimetric event.
You did. You had a major gravimetric event. Yes. And we will get onto that shortly. But before we do, does anybody have any questions, concerns, comments, or anything that I need to be reminded of, or that I need you to remind you guys of before we jump back into this? Because I think I've covered everything, but you never know. Hearing nothing from the room, I will go under the assumption that I have covered everything, at least of pertinence. So, yes indeed, the last thing that happened last session was there was another massive gravitational pulse that came out of the star, and this one caused some damage, except to the Samson, because, you know, somehow the ding that it got was just banged out.
It's as if the order to not bring any scratches back.
The Samson just rode the wave.
Indeed. And, you know,
Ramming
Fazanan's pilot... Sorry, go on, Shaun.
I said ramming speed.
May or may not have had something to do with the Karagite Order of Heroism.
The Navis can't really ride a wave when it's that close to the ground.
That's a good point. Something I did neglect to bring up and remember. Yes, in order to try and help facilitate to shorten the distance that the shuttles have to go from the surface to the Navis, it was decided that the Navis was going to lower itself into the upper atmosphere, get as close as safely possible down onto the planet's into the planet's upper atmosphere in order to try and ride that wave. Ride the atmosphere. Thank you, Davis. Mind would be nice. So, yes, the last thing that happened was the giant gravimetric blast from the star. The Mogami has taken a knock, as has the Navis. The Samson, of course, did not, because, you know, Samson's awesome. And so's the pilot, and so's the co-pilot. Whereas the one driving the Navis, the captain, hasn't yet scratched it. We shall see if that trend continues. But
Might have a mistake with the tractor and throw a shuttlecraft at it. We'll see.
Keval just keys it.
So, paying attention now to the ongoings that are going to be troubling us. Obviously, that big blast has caused a great deal of instability now in the Navis, as the gravity wave that went out has destabilized the atmosphere on the second planet. The Mogami is not having a great time of it, but for the moment, the Navis being so low in the atmosphere is now going to need to see if they can stay aloft. So, the first thing I am going to ask is for Andrews with assistance from the Navis itself. See if you can stay aloft. You are going to have to burn power in order to do this. So I've just taken 1 point of power. I've just noticed that my threat and milestones are not there again, so excuse me while I reload. This is a consistent problem, and I'm not entirely sure what causes it. I'm going to guess a problem with the style sheet. Because there they are.
I think maybe it's Nova nibbling at the wires of your little rig.
I see the problem. You accidentally diverted power from the port nacelle.
We don't talk about the port nacelle.
Remember,
fine.
they're both the same.
They are both the same.
There is only one port nacelle.
We may not talk about it, but it talks about us. Always watching.
Which is really creepy since we left it to the starbase and got a replacement.
That was the starboard nacelle.
They
That
go
was the
back.
one that Nova rejigged, if you recall. The starboard one. The port one was the one that had to go on without the starboard one. But maybe the port one has been affected by it. And where am I going with this? I'm going to stop that tangent right there.
I believe you're going starboard.
Whilst I was trying to stay on port. On point.
It's when
On
Madeline
point.
notes just goes port left, starboard right.
Yes.
Just have a glass next to you on your left whenever you need reminding. Just a quick drink.
Yeah, quick glass of starboard.
Starboard.
Would starboard
that'd
be
be
red or
confusing.
white?
Just,
Because I
no,
know
just bring
port's
out
red,
say.
but, you know.
Just bring out a brand of port called Starboard just to annoy people. Just to confuse them.
Anyway, let's have Gareth, since you're the chief medical officer and don't always have that much to do depending on what happens next, of course. Let's see how well you can be the Navis, keeping things aloft. So for the Navis, can I get... this is definitely going to be engines and con. And I'm going to require a control and con from the captain. Captain Andrews, if we can, please. This is going to be difficulty 3.
The Navis is doing her part.
Well, I think that calls for a determination burn then.
And I'm going to add 1 to the complication range by burning a point of threat. So,
Survival at any cost determination, I think.
sure. That's entirely fine.
Yeah, no focus. Or could you argue survival training or staff protocols as a focus?
Probably protocols, because survival training is going to be more to do with, you know, where to find food and plants and which thrusters to hit in an emergency situation when keeping your starship aloft. I'd be very impressed if a survival manual had that in there. 4! Excellent. 1 over what you needed.
We get the determination back.
You do not get the determination back, but you do get the point, an extra point of momentum on top of that, so well done. So, the Navis's thrusters flare to life all together. Never follow the manual. Don't say that around Vibers. Vibers depends on that manual.
The manual would be fine, but we've currently got a tractor beam pointing us to the ground.
Well, thereupon lies the next issue. So the the ship shudders and shakes, and there's a very loud groaning of straining hull. But power is poured into the thrusters in order to try and keep the ship stable and aloft. Meanwhile, there is an alert from, let's say, Lieutenant Mono, who jumped in onto the sensors and science station whilst his immediate superior, Lieutenant Orei, was busy with the tractor beam, along with Lieutenant Stevens and Lieutenant Edwards, and of course Commander Vibers. Lieutenant Mono reports that, well, to the shock of nobody, the planet is now showing signs of instability in the planet, in its crust, as well as rapidly changing magnetic fields, for reasons he can't adequately determine at present. So, the situation on the planet is now getting more dire. As such...
Sorry.
Yep, go on.
No, you first.
Give me just a second, actually. I've just noticed. Those of you watching will notice I've suddenly gained a furry companion. Which can only mean one thing. I'm about to get smacked in the face a couple of times. So if this amuses folks, then by all means...
Admiral.
I'm about to get feline intervention in the face, I feel.
Are you meaning the Cations are invading?
Yes! Yes, the Cations are taking over.
A close encounter of the furry kind.
Lieutenant Lenny felt so bad about not being allowed to drive the Samson or pilot the Navis that he's now started an insurrection.
Well, he's realised that there's a scratch on the side of it.
Well, I was going to say, didn't you put him in charge of piloting the California?
Just going to make the suggestion, if we get feline intervention this often, you should at least get some pips on the collar.
But there was a point I was trying to make, which is, yes, the situation on the planet with regards to the evacuation is now getting rather serious, and of course with the tractor beam. Helki.
Yeah, we're going to yeet a load of rocks up towards the ship.
Yeah, well.
Rocks.
Well,
They're cargo containers that are reinforced.
I was going to say, yes, there are cargo containers with rocks in them, and at the moment, because the ship just careens to the side a couple of times, you've now got a load of valuable, apparently, bits of data, equipment, and artifacts that are now being thrown around. Who did we just lose?
Possibly.
Alex.
Oh, is it now?
Alex, I've noticed Alex's connection to Foundry has been dipping in and out, so... could be a similar problem. So the guys on the tractor beam. Yeah, the objects in the tractor beam are being thrown about an awful lot. What would you like to do about it?
The question is ultimately, do we care?
Good question.
We don't want to get one stuck inside the impulse engines, because that would be bad. Sorry, I'm simplifying this for the captain's benefit.
So the question I ask is, do we care? Not my problem to fix.
Yeah, we noticed, Alex. It's cool. It's cool. As long as you're back, that's what counts.
Hitting the ground on your first week in office might be.
So, any suggestions from the tractor beam crew as to what to do?
I was going to say, could you clarify what you meant by the poles are changing? Are they, as in, like, this randomly fluctuating, the poles are changing, or are they just changing positions? Like
The poles are
Earth is
changing
predicted to do?
positions, so it's like a polar. What do they call it? A flip.
Yeah, I think it was it like where the R's are meant to do it the next was like 100 years or so.
Yeah.
Oh, they should have flipped about 1,000 years ago. They haven't yet.
Weird.
They're on.
Nonetheless, yes, there are weird and random shifts of the planet's poles at the moment, which of course is creating a lot of instability. Not the least of which, it's kind of throwing off your tractor beam a little bit.
Forge is not liking the fact that my driver just updated. Give me a moment.
I noticed.
Alright. We could do with you taking over targeting for this and getting it cleared up. I'm gonna make sure nothing's gonna hit the hangar bay or anything dangerous.
Ooh. As this is a recognised phenomenon that happened on, I imagine, various planets, as like Earth, as I imagine it would have happened in the Star Trek world, universe. Would it be able to run a potential simulation based off previous, phenomena of the same kind in an attempt to try and predict or let's say, a big attempt to predict, and therefore able to compensate for the fluctuations to try and vaguely keep up with it?
Those with backgrounds in xenoanthropology, and I'm including not just Edwards, but Lieutenant Orei in this, you've more than likely studied more than a few alien civilizations who have tales of these violent upheavals in their cultures, and usually they usually go into the mythology as, like the anger of the gods or a doomsday kind of scenario. So it wouldn't be outside the realms of possibility that you could draw upon this as to what you would expect to happen. As far as using that to anticipate what to do in order to bar the fluctuations, it's a reach, but I could let it.
It's why I actually thought of like our own one, because obviously in this universe many thousand years have happened, so it would have bound to have happened at one point or another. I'd
Geomagnetic
like to imagine.
reversal of
So
the
it
poles,
was-
that was the term I was trying to think of.
Yeah.
Yes.
So it's basically that kind of thing. Should have. I can imagine at least some of the more advanced ones in the Federation, like Volga, that probably would have witnessed something similar and had some sort of recordings of it. That's just why I was thinking go through data and to see if we could use that as a very, very baseline of just to give an idea, rather than trying to compensate on the fly in the dark.
So what this could mean, if I'm grabbing your intention, is while maybe Stevens and Vibers work on the actual tinkering with the tractor beam in order to try and not lose what's already on there, but maybe Orei and Edwards could contribute in a different way to try and anticipate likely changes that are going to happen or are happening. Did I get that right, or am I reaching a little too far into the?
No, that's good. It's basically it is sort of to help them.
Okay.
My whole system's on a go slow, so I might end up having to do a quick restart. So
That's cool. You are kind of bouncing in and out as far as sound for me, in any case. So.
Okay. Yeah, I'm going to do that now because I think something's gone wrong with my Steam. It's tried to update itself and it's just gone. Do you know what? We're not going to. And Steam's been.
You've got Steam on while we're here doing this. I'm hurt.
Game's running, just Steam in the background. I very rarely turn it off.
Incidentally, I would recommend turning Steam off as often as possible because it does chew on memory in the background. So, anyway, moving on. So, what I'm thinking then is Vibers and Lieutenant, pardon me, I'm demoting her already. Lieutenant Stevens here are probably going to do more of a control and engineering pair of checks in order to try and keep the thing stable, whereas Orei and Edwards try and get with the reason and engineering, or reason and science more likely, in order to try and create a means of anticipating the fluctuations that the tractor beam is going to have to deal with. So, reason 11, science of 5, reason 11, science of 4. Just based on scores alone, it would make sense for the chief science officer to lead the effort as far as Edwards and Orei are concerned, and of course Vibers leading the effort where Vibers and Stevens are concerned.
Yep. Can I have a volunteer for Stevens?
Let's see. Well, Webby, technically Stevens was your character, but you can also volunteer either Shaun or Jan onto this, because they're not going to get anything.
While we're on ship, well, they're going to be very quiet for a bit.
Yeah. I'm going to get to you guys next, but yeah.
There we are. Things are starting to run a bit better now.
Jan, if you could be Stevens for me then, please.
Be with you shortly.
Sure. Was that reason and science?
It was going to be control and engineering for Stevens, because she and Vibers are going to be trying to stabilize the tractor beam. Any focuses?
You don't have to follow you.
Electroplasma. Maybe not.
Maybe not, because it's warp field, which has nothing to do with the tractor beam-ish, except for the use of gravitons. Propulsion system it's not, an ectoplasma system it's not really, so we'll just go with control and engineering as an assist from Stevens.
That's a lot better now. Everything's
Thanking you. Steady hands as a value if you really want to burn a determination, Davis, that's fine.
Why not?
I'm going to make this difficulty never mind because you already went ahead. Rapid hypothesis.
All right. I didn't
That's
mean
all right.
to do that.
You can delete anything that you've accidentally posted. The thing you can delete. You should notice a trash bin icon. There you go. If you want to get rid of those things accidentally.
Now, the number of dice in the pool when I roll, is that 2?
It will be for you. I will get to you guys in just a second. I just want to deal with these guys first. But yes, the answer is 2. What are we going to do with this complication?
That's my answer to the complication.
Ignore a complication. Declare it before the Games Master announces the complication's effect. There we are. So I noticed it, I just didn't declare what happened, so you were quick enough to get the Legion of Honor in. Okay, cool. So that gives us 3, 4, which was well over what I was going to ask for you to do. So, well, for better or worse, Vibers and Stevens for now have managed to stabilize the tractor beam so that it isn't going to fling everything randomly in the direction of the Navis and hope it goes into the open shuttle bay. Meanwhile, yes, we're going to be needing a reason and engineering assist from Lieutenant Edwards. Focuses. I suppose since you are going from a cultural studies, xenoarchaeological side of it, I will allow those focuses to be used. As far as Lieutenant Orei is concerned, reason and science, if you could. So 2 dice for Lieutenant Orei, because he's the chief, and 1 dice because Edwards is assisting.
Oh, no, I was about to propose a use of my determination, those who do not learn from the history. From history.
However, Lieutenant Orei is all over that stuff.
Yeah.
So anything you get is added success. There we are, whopping. So with that many successes, yes, the 2 of you working together are able to go with your active knowledge of this kind of thing does tend to happen in history. So this is the kind of thing we might be able to expect. As such, program this kind of scenario into the computer running the tractor beam, and we should, with any due course of luck and success, all 4 of them, manage to stave off any other accidents, providing, of course, that the ship remains in relatively stable position. And we'll get to that when we get to that, but...
If either of you dare say it needs to be held more steady, it's like you can fly it from now on.
One thing I will get to before we get to our intrepid pair closer to the star is the fact that we did take some structural impact damage. As such, I am going to roll challenge dice, and we'll see if an effect is rolled. No. Okay, cool. So the only thing that happens is that due to the impact, some consoles explode, a couple of conduits here and there rupture. Nothing major, but some people with minor injuries are going to start to trickle towards sickbay. So at the moment, sickbay is dealing with just minor injuries, mostly cuts, scrapes, maybe a bit of steam blasting, not too much to worry about so far, and not too many. So, let's jump
Tell
back.
the captain not to scratch our people.
So, let's get back to our guys out in front of the star. Now, the Samson was currently parked behind, well, kind of in the midst of some of the ancient debris. But there's now been the big event, the big blast of gravitons, or gravitational wave that just came out of that, which has knocked the Samson a bit, but you were able to weather that storm. But there's now something else. As Nova, from her position in the co-pilot, or whatever you want to call the fella at the back, the operations pilot. I don't know. Is there an actual word for the crew member at the back who's not actively piloting but is looking over all the other instrumentation? Answers on chat.
Co-pilot.
It's still co-pilot, is it?
I would think so. Same thing as for Mond airplanes.
Not being much of an Air Force or that kind of business, I am not in the know, I'm sorry, so, yeah.
I was going to say
folks.
R2 and trigger across.
R2! I expect Nova to whistle her responses from here on. And maybe do the R2 scream if things get a little too intense. But Nova's instrumentation indicates that there is now an increased amount of gravitational pull coming from the star. This is also going along with the fact that the star's brightness has increased. So something's going on with the star, and its gravitational collapse seems to be increasing, which means it's now starting to draw more towards itself as it's beginning the process of implosion. So it's starting to draw more of itself in, which is creating more of a gravitational draw, and as such there are now small bits but increasingly larger bits of stellar debris are starting to drift at speed towards the star and getting consumed by it. So Yes, the first thing we're going to have to do with the Samson is going to have to fight off the fact that the star is now trying to swallow the Samson. It's taking power, which I've just taken from the Samson, to even maintain your position, but the strain on the vessel is now getting more and more severe. So we're going to need you guys to break out of the gravitational pull. So who can I mean, Gareth once again can be the Samson if folks are okay with that. The Samson is going to probably need to use engines and... or is it going to be structure? No, it's definitely engines to do with power. Engines and con from the Samson. Keval's the pilot, so he's definitely going to need to try and find the best means of trying to pilot this thing out of the gravitational pull by finding a lee. So it's definitely going to be control and con with a focus on Helm operations for Keval. Nova. Well, let's see. Nova could assist in any number of ways, diverting more power by using, was it daring and engineering or control and engineering, or any other way that you can think of assisting there, Shaun. Far be it for me to dictate.
I think Nova would stick with power, because I don't think Keval would let her do a barrel rolls.
Don't touch the stick.
The thing is that might actually help, because you're diverting where the stress focuses are.
So
I think Nova's focus would still be going in, so Nova would be more willing to go for it.
Yeah, if you watch some of the videos on Kerbal Space Program where they just spin shuttles going into orbit, it stops them from experiencing the sheer amount of gravitational force, you know, so it's possible. It is computer game physics though, rather than real world, but...
So, what would Nova like to do? Concentrate on the power-related stuff?
Yeah, I think just concentrate on the power.
Okay, so that would definitely be daring and engineering, with a focus probably on inner workings, as you are used to. The ship, the engines are going to need additional power, so that is going to draw an additional point out, but that's what Nova can do to assist. So there's Nova's 2 successes. The Samson's already given an extra success, so it's all whatever our pilot. 2 successes, 5 in total. Wow. Alright, so, yeah, utilizing some of the oncoming bits of debris, we do manage to... Oops-a-daisy, wrong button. Ooh, what did I just do?
Some weird targeting error.
Yeah. I didn't know I could do that!
And here she goes.
So the Samson manages to, with a bit of extra power, so there's an audible increase in pitch and whine from the engines of the Samson, as you're forced to burn some extra power in order to pull out of the immediate gravitational pull of the star. So, yes, with good due of success, you are out of the immediate zone, but the gravitational pull is gradually increasing, so staying in that general area is going to be trouble for you guys. But, for the moment, that's that initial bit of hair-raising antics. Just about done. But, as the Samson pulls its way out and powers away from the star, you do get the rather worrying view in your cockpit screen of the fact that there are now bigger and bigger chunks of stellar debris starting to hurtle towards the star and therefore the Samson. And more worrying still, as this map demonstrates, there are now chunks being pulled out of the planets themselves. This now brings us back to the Navis. As back on the bridge, there is a definite alert that still no scratches, I hope. Not at the moment. But, yes, a rather worried Lieutenant Monod pipes up quickly on the bridge. Captain! And Monod switches the view screen in order to show a view of the terrain not far from the area that the Navis is. What was that? Only on my packed lunch I dropped my sandwich. little iron sandwich, lunch pail. Lunch pail? Why pail, Matt? Not a lunch pail. Lunch box. Jeez. Totally thrown off. The Navis is in geostationary orbit, and so the view screen is switched to show a large chunk of, not directly below the Navis, but some ways off, thankfully, where there were none of the evacuees going, but a large chunk of a mountain has now been ripped free thanks to the increasing gravitational pull of the star. Things are getting pretty serious. The Navis itself is now starting to feel the pull of the star's gravity, and now you have a chunk of mountain coming in your direction. As
Quantum torpedoes full spread.
As warning, incoming collision alert. So, once again, let's have. Are we going to allow on the Navis? What's that, Alex?
I was actually thinking about what you said in jest could actually work if we were able to plot the trajectory of the mountain, hit it at the right point where it potentially affect the spin, and give it enough inertia to make it just go past us.
It would be a case of just fire and hope. I don't think we'd have time to calculate it.
Phasers.
We do have for computer brain on the bridge.
Yes,
you do
still,
have computer
it's
brain.
happening in instantaneous. This mounting is moving at speed.
Yeah, and the other one of... Isn't a single quantum torpedo enough to blow up a city?
Yes, but a city is more spread over an area, I'd say, rather than a dense chunk of rock. But I'm happy to be overruled on the people that know better on the
It's not the
situation.
fact that it's a dense chunk of rock, it's the fact that we're very close to the ground.
Oh, good point, actually.
And the shields aren't up because we're having to do all of this without shields.
Yep,
Yes.
because we're moving things on board, which means you can't.
We could, no, because the deflector's currently synced up for the tractor beam
Yep.
as well, supporting that, so we can't even overcharge the
Phasers
deflector.
is all you've got.
Yeah, I think Mr. Claw can just go trigger free whilst trying to do some complicated piloting.
Okay, so first things
See
first
if,
then.
Yeah, having Hello assisting with potentially with calculating which bits are going to hit us.
Alright, so if Shaun can take charge of Hello, this is probably going to be a reason and security, because you're looking at where to shoot the thing. Although an argument could be made if you're using science to do it, so... yeah, okay. Quantum computing as a focus.
I didn't think this idea would actually be used, so I'm feeling a bit...
So we know who to blame if this all goes wrong, don't we?
Yep.
I mean, I didn't hear any other ideas.
So, once again, Gareth, because the Chief Medical Officer doesn't always get that much to do, except, repair to his duties, let's have you be the Navis. This is definitely going to be weapons and security from the Navis. And let's... Webby, you enjoy being clawed the most. Although, there's going to be some dodging and ducking and diving,
Piloting,
so maybe somebody else be clawed. Mike,
Mike's
you haven't been clawed yet.
Ooh, the Navis does something very well.
Ooh! Well, if there's one thing the Navis does well, it is weapons. Let's give Mike the privilege of using Commander Claude, shall we?
Did someone pretend to the Navis computer that we were shooting at Orion pirates again?
Mike, if you could check that you can open Claught's character sheet,
Low
please.
down on Claught. Claught is an omnipotent humanoid. He is a rock man.
He's Space Chuck Norris.
He is Space Chuck Norris, yeah. So
Basically.
if you roll a complication, there will be consequences for your actions.
Okay.
And then with the Navis, we don't roll complications.
So if you've got Commander Claught's character sheet open, we're going to be wanting control and security with a focus on starship weapon systems. Rolling 2 dice.
Claught always speaks in the third person.
Oh! Ouch.
Well, good. Luckily for you, luckily for Claught in this case, the Navis targeting computer, assisted in no small way by Unit Hello, was able to plot
fine,
a
actually.
reasonably good shot.
You couldn't find the button, that's why.
He
Because
has
it's not
really
used
thick
to-
fingers.
It's not used to pressing the phaser button. It's always torpedoes.
Exactly, so he has to find the smaller of the 2 red buttons that he has to push, but nevertheless,
Which is hard when you have
there is an almighty explosion as the phasers lance out and strike the mountain at the point that Unit Hello and the targeting computers, targeted, and the mountain collapses into a load of smaller chunks of debris, but nonetheless that still makes for something of an interesting challenge now for whoever's flying the Navis, as these chunks are going to be speeding past velocity as smaller and less damaging than taking a mountain full in the face, but nevertheless. So in this case it's going to be Andrews with another control and con, but this time who do we have as the Navis? Are we going to trust Davis with it? Davis is the Navis? Which is something I never get tired of saying.
Navis the Navis.
I'm fine with it. He's gone through his bad rolls now.
Okay. Davis, then, if you could take control of the Navis for the moment and give us a... This is gonna be structure and con.
I brought a quick guide to Claught in Discord, by the way.
Is that a single dice for this one?
Single dice from the Navis, if you please. 2 dice from Andrews. Nice. Navis is doing well tonight.
Control and con again.
Control and con, if you please, yes.
We've got full momentum.
You got a full momentum pool, yes you do. But I am going to knock off a point of threat in order to up this this to 3 difficulty.
We will knock off a point of momentum to stall the mountain's momentum.
It's the law of preservation of momentum.
Yep.
4! Alright, so there is the clattering.
It's the extra die as well then. Hang on, let me do a single roll just to see if we get complication on it.
Nope.
So yeah, we'd have maximised it.
Excuse me. There is the sound of rocks and other smaller debris clattering against the hull of the Navis, but you manage to evade the larger chunks, and therefore there's no additional structural damage that the ship takes from that sudden large chunk of geology that just came at you.
Bridge to Commander Vibers, launch the worker bees now. There can be no evidence.
I'm sorry, Captain. The worker bees are already getting used for passenger transport.
I thought you were keeping at least one for...
Nice.
If I recall, you were keeping one worker bee as the one to push the artifacts and the data and stuff into the into
Where
the.
do you want this worker bee, Captain? It's currently shuffling cargo.
Sod the cargo, the ship's damaged.
Yeah, if I sod the cargo, the ship will be more damaged. This stuff's on a continual train towards us with no brakes.
Speaking of which, yeah, the guys who are currently on the tractor beam. I mean, is there anything particularly you want to do now? Because right now, the ship is managing, but you can hear at least what's going on.
Is it
Okay.
stabilized?
How are we doing with passengers, with people getting out of that base?
You still have some to go.
How big is the base?
The base was big enough for at least a couple of hundred people. Let's go with 200. Now, the Megami...
Is there a module that the remaining people will fit in?
I can see where you're going with this.
We can't wait that long.
Potentially.
Right, just... Okay. Captain, I have a plan. That'll mean we're not hanging around as long. It does mean I'm gonna need the secondary core brought fully online, and
That's a good point.
we're gonna be carrying something quite large under the ship.
See, I have a feeling that I know where this is going with that plan, but unless there's any objections, run with it, Commander.
Right,
Okay. Interesting.
okay. Alright, Edward, I need some simulations done up because this structural integrity isn't gonna hold for the whole length of time we need it. I need you to find... So, look at their map. Module 5. That module there. I want you to see if you can calibrate a simulation for using a tractor beam to hold that against the ship. We're also going to need to get the deflector to keep it safe while we pull out of the gravity well. Are you two able to put that simulation together and see if it's possible?
You're talking to Orei and Edwards, yes?
Let's give everything a go. So basically, we use that to hold on to the thing.
We can't get them out the base. Can we get the base off the planet?
It has the virtue of never being done before. No, that's not strictly true. I think the Borg have done that. A little less gently.
Lieutenant?
I was going to say, would the other ship be able to assist with their own tractor beam, holding it in place for the time being? So they'd have to be quite close to us. But if one tractor beam's picking stuff up, two would be better at holding it in place than one. Or is that overthinking it?
You may be onto something, but not with the tractor beam. We could get them to do some of the deflectors on the trip up, just to keep extra things out of our way.
Nice. I like it. Okay.
Right. If you two can work out the details, I think I've got a very interesting conversation to have with their base director.
Yes,
and
you
possibly,
do.
and possibly Lieutenant Rennie, who is currently flying a shuttlecraft backwards and forwards with as many people as he can at a time.
So, Lieutenant Hal Thompson is the guy on the ground who can be brought up on the, well, if we go by here instead with the communications, can be brought up on communications. So Vibers is going to be going basically back to the bridge, or to any console really that you can use for communication. Alright, okay.
Al, we have a problem, and you're going to help me fix it.
Let me get my thingy going. Okay.
Right. With the current gravity issues, we are not going to be able to evacuate everybody in time. And if we do, the ship's structural integrity is going to collapse and we're all going to explode.
That sounds like a bad old time.
Yes. Right. By my calculations, I think Module 5 of your base can be easily detached, and we could use that as a lifeboat.
Whoa. Okay, that is an interesting plan, eh?
Right. I need your engineers' opinions of whether it can take it. Assuming it's in a tractor beam and it's under full deflectors, so just ignore external impacts. We'll handle that. I need to make sure it can take being held in a tractor beam. Journey into orbit, and if it can be made airtight, if it's not already.
I mean, if we can retrofit some stuff down here and turn them into maybe force field projectors, we can use them as a form of a structural integrity field. We're all wearing EV suits. This is going to be a bumpy ride, though, eh?
Better than dead.
Better than dead.
I think we've got what? Just over a third of your people already on board?
Yeah, last I got word from the Mogami, they're actually pretty full. They got no more room for anybody, so it's going to be pretty much the Navis that's going to be taking guys on board.
Right. Okay, you get your engineers on it. I'll see if we can send a couple over to help you weld things up.
With all due respect, Commander, we're rocking and reeling down here. The ground is practically undulating underneath us. Anyone else that you send down is going to be risking their lives. We'll use who we've got down here.
Get that module ready and disconnected, and give us a heads up as soon as it's ready, and we'll pull bits up. We'll keep the Californian, the insert name of shuttle here because I can't remember which one it is, shuttling as long as we can. But
you were an engineer before, right?
Yep.
Yeah, it shows. Alright, let's do this thing.
Right, when we're done, I owe you a pint. Catch on the other side. But please say that simulation works, I've just committed us to the madness.
So, in that regard, let's have... let's see, this is going to be a computer simulation, so... I think Lieutenant Orei's computer's skill is going to be needed here. Ooh, now, what are we going to need? This is a simulation. This is a pretty crazy simulation too. I'm going to go with.
Please feel free to tweak this, change it as you want. This is just me.
Yeah, divert whatever resources you all think is necessary.
This is me going right. Sorry, go on.
Sorry. No, you first.
Because I'm trying to think, is this reason and science, or is it going a little more off the gut and going insight and science?
I'd probably say it's more daring.
And there was the next level, which was
daring.
daring.
Don't say daring.
Because this is crazy stuff.
I can do that, and I was thinking about would it be burning a determination on either the value of the mission objective, or potentially seeing is believing, as we're about to have a base floating in space pressed up against a starship.
Well, if we look at the directives, which was... Oh, I didn't put them down. It's very bad of me. Right, where was the... Well, the directive was pretty much assist in the evacuation of personnel and material from AlphaTauri 2. So using that as a justification of a point of determination is definitely within the framework of allowance. Yes, if you want to burn a point of determination. And I'm afraid I am definitely going to have to go with daring and science, because this is pretty crazy stuff.
I don't have a focus for this, so...
No, it's funny about that. This is going to be seat off the pants jobby.
I might have one after
Is
this.
our science officer helping?
Yeah, he's going to have to help because it seems that Edwards has already taken the lead on this. So
That's good because my daring is terrible.
so well.
Mine's only 8.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I think I've done well so far.
you have done very well so far.
1 dice.
Oh,
So we'll go with the 3.
Jesus.
Wow, that was impressive.
That'll be 6.
So between the two of them, Edwards and Orei just kind of look at each other and go, "Wow, okay, he's given us an easy job." What the hell?
We're a good team.
Simulation.
I think Edwards is
Okay,
probably
how
used
do we
to it
do
by
this
now at
without
this point.
killing everybody on board, on the planet?
Spin the wheel
Well-
and see where it lands.
With that amount of successes, you do realize one crazy thing that might work. Because the problem here is the fact that you're trying to pick up essentially what is a prefabricated building that's one of those things that you just kind of plop a case on the floor, press a button, and it unfolds itself. So it's one of those temporary buildings that Starfleet and the Federation tend to put down that's, you know, it's temporary accommodation. It's one of those things you put down and you pack up again later. But you are now intending on, you're now trying to create a simulation by which you're trying to get people who are going to be using this as a shelter whilst you grab hold of it with a tractor beam and haul it into space, whilst there's gravitational fluctuations going on both the planet with its flipping poles and the star that's now starting to increase its gravitational pull. To say that both Orei and Edwards sweat this more than a little would be understating matters. However, the both of them being very smart and innovative guys, you realise that some of the scenarios just show the building just losing its structural integrity no matter how many times it just collapses from the sheer pressures it's put under, because it's not meant for outer space. But then you come upon a really crazy solution, and that is you're going to have to actually take some of the crust underneath the structure with it in order to create a sense of solidity and stability.
You can also make sure it's open, so it's depressurizing as it goes through into space. Decrease the pressure on the inside, pushing out on it.
And therefore count on everybody using the fact that they are in EV suits and will probably need to tether themselves down to something. So you come up with this plan in a surprisingly short amount of time, considering the many successes you've just had. So what would have taken lesser guys a lot of sweating and more than a bit of time to complete, you guys just hit upon this idea with a flash of inspiration. And the numbers suggest it could work. So that's what we're going to go with. Wow. Meanwhile, back out in the nearby star, there is, yes, now the crew of the Samson are trying to fight their way back to the Navis with hunks of planetary debris and other bits of rock or frozen gas hurtling at you at increased velocities. So this is gonna require some interesting piloting, not to mention a good bit of strain on the engines to do this. Yes.
One thing, with now that obviously the star is destabilizing, is there any kind of additional noise that Nova and Keval are picking up with being in that close proximity to the telecom tech that we're trying to look out for?
Yes. Nova is definitely getting these indistinct whispers being louder. There's no, as I've noted before, there's no discernible words, phrases, impressions. There's just this noise. It has taken on more of a I want to say desperate tone to it. Not desperate insofar as there's something wrong on the other side that this transmission is coming from, for lack of a better word, transmission, that suggests they might be in danger or anything. It's more like they've suddenly realized someone is listening and they've kind of increased the intensity of the message coming out. However, actually,
Would it be possible to try and get a recording of it?
not easily, no, because it's entirely telepathic currently.
Yeah.
That can be the next science topic near a recorder.
I could bounce it. Forcefully reopen the link between Keval and Ella. I send it to Keval. I send it to Ella.
With or without Keval's consent.
That doesn't come up in this conversation.
I think Nova's going to have to go through some boundaries protocol training after that.
So let's see. Nova's technically sat in the cockpit behind Keval, so I just kind of pictured she grabs a wire and just leans forward, jams it into the side of Keval's ocular implant.
And then he goes into the star from pain and electric shock.
Yeah, and you know how he still suffers from those random blackouts? Now would be a horrendous time for Keval to pass out.
As such, I am throwing in a point of threat to up the complication range of this bad boy.
Jan, what's your opinion on all of this?
The only memory Keval will have of this is Nova giving him a scalp massage.
Is that how you're breaking us down into some sort of romance blossoming? Like that's how he's struggling with the trauma.
Or, you know, it's just his brain just, as you say, trauma. The trauma of the thing was so great that his brain just reinterprets what happened.
Now, is it trauma, or did his brain get hacked when he next goes to sleep?
I
Wow.
definitely think he's been hacked. Yeah, he's definitely been hacked.
Right, ultimately, this is entirely up to Jan whether or not he's comfortable having his character hijacked in this fashion.
No, I don't think she would. As much as she wants to. She'd be trying to filter it herself and probably lose focus on flying.
Okay, so Nova's going to be doing her own thing and won't be assisting Keval in the flying. Cool. So Nova is, at this point in time, looking to find some way of recording this. Okay. Well, technically, you have got a tricorder. And a tricorder can take scans, including scans of neural activity. So, it's possible that, with your emphasis on... I mean, hell, empathy projection as a science. I mean, you've got to imagine Bajorans at this point have got a fairly good idea as to the science of their empathic and telepathic capabilities. So, who knows? So I'm gonna add that point of threat that I spent back, because I didn't get to use it. But nonetheless, Nova... Ooh, let's go with... reason and science, with a focus on empathy projection. I am gonna bring that point of threat back, actually, in order to up the difficulty of this to something like 3. Because this isn't going to be the easiest thing to capture on the fly on a tricorder. So let's see if Nova can do it.
Okay, I'm going to throw in empathetic orphans determination.
Yep. It makes sense because she is trying to make contact or find a way of making contact, so that's all good with me. Let's see what we get. A 2 and a 5. Excellent. Whoa, really good successes. So with that many successes, Nova reckons she has got a darned good recording of her own neural mapping of the signals coming in. So whilst that's going on, let's deal with Keval having to drive the Samson, or pilot I should say, the Samson, through the oncoming mass of debris. Now, because this is a serious issue, I am going to make this a... I am going to make this a thing. A trait, a complication of its own, a disadvantage that is going to make the overall piloting role that much more difficult. But, of course...
I have a wire in my eye.
Thankfully he doesn't now, but push the limits, environmental conditions are making the piloting check more difficult, but that does mean that Keval, using Push the Limits talent, does get to lower the difficulty of it by 1. As such, can we once more have somebody being the Samson? Who hasn't been the Samson that wants to be? Mike!
Yes.
You haven't been the Samson.
No.
Let's let you be the Samson.
Poor Samson.
The Samson, actually, along with the Navis, is doing very well so far, so this is going to absorb another point of power, which I've just taken off. If I could get you, Mike, please, to give me an engines and con roll, just 1 dice with the Samson, and if we can get Keval to flex his piloting muscles with another control and con, this is going to be difficulty 3. Because otherwise it would have been 4, because you got massive, massive chunks. This time, the Samson doesn't quite do as well. Never mind, but no complications, so that's what
I'm
counts.
not good at ships, though.
It seems not, no, so...
I'll just stick to science.
So if I really
So
want
you
things
said-
to go badly... Sorry, yes, go on.
Sorry, you said difficulty 3.
Difficulty 3 now. It was 4, but you've lowered it down to 3.
I think I'm gonna use Starcross, and I shall use a point of momentum if people don't mind.
Yeah,
Got
you
a
did.
Yep, you got a full pool, so why not? Oh, look at that. Glorious. So, ducking and dodging and barrel rolling, Keval manages to expertly pilot the Samson past all of the debris, getting himself, the Samson, and Nova back safely on the Navis, dare I say, without her scratch.
Well, we'll note the scratch on the Navis as he pulls into dock.
So, yes, Captain Andrews becomes keenly aware of the Samson doing a couple of flybys around the ship, around the Navis a couple of times before it does come into land in the shuttle bay.
Pointedly hovering sort of at the point where the scratch is for a second or two.
And just kind of pointing,
As he
gesturing.
flies past the bridge, he just looks through the window and just sees Andrews with sort of like flipping the bird at him.
So we do now need to find out whether underneath the Navis is a big box of a base we dragged up from the ground or not.
Yes, because this now begs the question. You're going to be pretty much using a tractor beam to rip this thing up and then plop it on at some point next to the ship's hull, which means that the tractor beam is not going to be used to bring up the artifacts, the data, and the rest of the materiel. So, but that's
Whatever artifacts we ain't got now, tough.
quite. And they are now, as soon as they are released by the tractor beam, they just kind of easily get caught up in the gravitational pull of the star and get flung towards the star itself. Yes. Ensign Keshen, sorry, it's not Ensign anymore, he was given a promotion, well done. Lieutenant Keshen starts noting to Andrews that a number of communiques are coming in from the civilian science team, who are apparently shouting now down the comms about their work getting lost.
Mute them.
At which point Keshen just nods and presses a button.
Tell
I'm
them if
sorry,
they wish
the
to, they can
Star-
file. Yeah, if they wish to, they can file a formal complaint with Starfleet because we've just saved their lives.
We're
I'm
about
sorry,
to.
the starship you're talking to cannot be found at the moment. Please try again later.
So, meanwhile, Ensign Lenny and Ensign, I've done it again. I got so used to calling him Ensign, I've forgotten he got promoted. Lieutenant Lenny is meanwhile helping shepherd the shuttles. If this plan goes into effect, you're pretty much going to be bringing up the rest of the remaining personnel on the planet. So that means the shuttles are now on their final approaches inbound. Excuse me. Not before another gravitational pulse comes streaking out of the star, at which point the Navis takes another structural whack, as well as one in the engines. So, everybody feel free to give me the Star Trek shake, as a massive impact rocks everybody on board the ship as well as the ship itself, and it groans audibly under the stresses. What was I going to do? Starship damage. So now that we're on 2 structural damage, equal to or greater than half the scale. We're not at half the scale yet, so you're fine with that. But as ever with any structural breach, gotta roll to see if we get... No, okay, so again, minor damage. Consoles explode, a couple of conduits rupture, people are hurled around out of their seats, or if they were standing in a corridor or anything, they get hurled rather violently to the ground. So more people are on their way to sickbay with bumps, bruises and scrapes. So Dr. Bertram is starting to slowly see the number of excuse me, people visiting sickbay go up in number, but of more pressing issue is the fact that we took a knock to the engines. So the ship loses 2 power immediately. So that was 1 extra than I gave. And until somebody restores the systems, all tasks to do with engines or have a power requirement are increased in difficulty and complication range by 1. So let me put that in damage. Structural damage, and we just got engine damage. So that is to be considered. At the same time, excuse me a second. On the viewer, or on comms, Captain Fortok comes out to the comms.
This is Fortok. Bit of bad news on our end. The last impact that hit us seemed to do a good deal of damage, but the Mogami is now full at capacity. We're going to need to pull the Mogami out and start heading towards the outer system. I can give you rendezvous coordinates for you to follow at your earliest convenience, Navis, but for the meantime, we can't take any more people, so we're going to be escorting them to the system's edge. Best of luck to you, Navis. With that, Captain Forthawk cuts communication, and sure enough, you do get the sensor readings and those looking out through the viewers and such that the Mogami is now starting to break orbit. So, with that,
You've got your module still on.
we have to check to see how successful you were in doing the thing with the module in the first place.
Yeah, you still got your voice modulator on, Matt.
Oh, pardon me.
Pardon me, thanks for noticing. Oh, so we've still got to work out what we're going to do with regards to that whacking great bit of terrain you're going to have to rip up.
Long task?
I see where you're going.
Could be, yeah.
A
'Cause
timed
we've got
task.
power from engineering to do. We've got Court's help to cut a big bit of terrain out of the ground. We've got Vibers working over comms with some of their engineers about force field placement and making sure we don't crush them. And then we've got our 2 expert scientists making it happen.
Okay.
Hopefully.
Okay.
I do think an extended task is probably a good idea.
Yeah, so let me give you a work track of about 20. Now, time is of the essence with this one, needless to say. Difficulty, I am going to... Well, you're going to be lifting a huge slab of rock. So, how many breakthroughs are we going to need? Magnitude of this is probably going to be 3, so I'm going to slap the difficulty at more or less the same. You are going to be wrenching forth a big piece of crust and trying to keep it intact. I am going to make the set resistance of this be 2.
I'm just
Alright.
throwing that out for what's coming next.
So this guy that's just appeared here, that's the... what's it called? Extended task.
So once the Samson redocks, there will be the request that Keval makes his way to the bridge and Nova goes to main deflector to support on the requirements.
I don't know if we should change pilots in midstream.
Well, you could still assist from the second ship.
Actually, you could use the Samson's deflector to assist.
Just go back out in the Samson and just use the deflector to try.
Or take the chair.
Wow, he'd take the command chair rather than the captain's chair.
Column A, column B. Alright then, so...
XO chair. Or the secondary station where next to Claw. Yeah.
Put that by there then. Well, in either
Although technically
case...
he's a commander, so yeah, he'd have done the command protocol. I'm fine with he can take the chair. Coordinate the actual situation.
Get that to work better, please. Thank you. Let me get some gravitational pull sounds going on here. Alright, so we've got the work track. So who is first to attempt something to do with the work track? What's the first stage of this, do we think?
I think the first stage is going to have to be cutting the ground.
Okay, so that's something that's going to require precision and weapons.
As I say, he's going to be using the phasers.
What were you going to say, Davis?
No, fine.
Alright, cool. So, whoever wants to do this side of things? I mean, Andrews is really good at security. Claude is really good at security.
Yeah, Andrews is tied up on keeping the ship stable, so it's going to be more of a floor task.
It's going to be more of a floor, but anybody who wants to assist can do so. I mean, Nova's not bad at security either. Let's not forget Keval. So, I'm open to options. People can assist. Otherwise, we'll just go with Claude. With nobody jumping for it. Sorry?
Well, yeah, if it's security-wise, etc., then Lieutenant Bravo as well. Bravo's good at security, so if Keval wants to assist on the security side of it, or unless we're splitting this into 3 sections, so then there's cutting the ground, there's getting the actual rig to run, and then there's keeping the ship stable. then it means
Yep.
that we're all actively involved in it, apart from Dr. Bertram.
And the people who've been piling into sick bay.
Well, the Navis can also assist, so Gareth can still do Navis-related paraphernalia. So the first activities, rather. Paraphernalia? One too many bloats ahead, maybe, I don't know. Okay. So, first digs is going to be done by those using Navis's probably weapons and security, or sensors and security, I think would be a bit better. So Gareth, if you could give us from the Navis sensors and security to make sure that the proper area is targeted, then we can have one success, so we can have how many more? We can have 2 more assist with this. So shall we have Bravo of security and Thazanan assist this for the shot?
Keval should maybe hold back to assist with piloting.
Okay, so let's put you over there in the piloting seat. Let's have Shaun. Do you want to be Bravo, since, you know, fellow Betazoid and all?
Alrighty.
Control and security? What was that, sorry?
Get Natik.
Could get an Atik?
Yeah, Natik could be brought in as well, basically just bringing as many people from the security team online.
Okay, so if we have Shaun as Bravo doing 1 dice with...
They have a focus on it.
Does Bravo have a focus? Maybe security protocol? I don't know. That might
really
be the...
cutting out.
No, it's not.
Cutting out a chunk of a planet.
It's not really a thing that you train for, really, in security, is it?
Or, was it not Jenny? Cursed. Emergency investigation specialist.
Cursed.
Her security's naff.
Could you use Mono with his control and science doing your sensors to help aim it? Would that be a good option?
If you're going for sensors, then Cursed might be a better idea.
I'd say yeah. Let's keep Moneo available for supporting in other bits, because he could then probably support on the stabilization.
Okay, so what are we looking at first? We're going to be doing Claude with whoever can help Claude in doing the shooting to carve out the area you want to pull out. So Curse is going to be assisting with sensors. So that's control and science, that sounds to me. So, who wants to be a kitty? Really got Shaun being Bravo, so Alex, do you fancy being Cursed?
Yeah,
or Mike?
Alex hasn't rolled for a while.
Alex hasn't rolled for a while, yeah, thank you.
Okay.
Alex, if you can give me, what did I say? Reason and science? Sensors, or control and science might be better, because you're trying to actively use the sensors, pardon me.
Focus sensors. I'm assisting, did you say? Yeah.
Yes. So far we've had the Navis assist, we've had Bravo of security assist, now we've got Cursed assist, and what's left now is Claude to actually do the shooting, so... Who was being Claude, or was it Mike?
Mike can Claude if you want.
Yeah, hello?
Yep, let's see if you can do better as our Chuck Norris.
Oh, poor guy. Right, let's see.
Control and security with a focus on Starship weapon systems, if you please, sir. 2 dice.
3 dice.
Very good. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 successes in total. The difficulty was 3, so you got 3 over what was needed. One of those is used to reduce the resistance down. If I remember, and no, Edwards isn't part of this, so neither is Vibers, so it stays at that, which is down to 1, which is okay. Can I then get, since Mike, since you were Claude, can I get you to use the Perform Challenge button found on Claude's character sheet? And the number of dice I'm going to ask you to roll is 7. Ooh, not many. So this is essentially rolling to see how much damage you do to the work track, as it were. So 6 successes is not bad at all. That's 1 over what you need for a breakthrough. So we have done the necessary breakthrough of carving a great chunk out of the planet in order to now try and lift it up into the atmosphere. So that was 1 breakthrough. The difficulty has now gone down to 2. The resistance has also now gone down to 1 because you've pretty much done most of the hard bit. So now it's trying to figure out a way of latching it onto the ship. So that sounds like the engineering and science guys to me.
Right, so latching,
something that
science
Nova can
guys
definitely
figure
help with
out
here.
how, and then I could do a run with Keshin and Stevens to get that set up, and then we've got enough people left for a 3rd run to get all the power set up and then do it. Does that sound like a good plan, or have I gone too far?
What do people think? So run that by me one more time then, Davis.
Right. So I'm seeing this as we've got 3 actions to do. We've got the science guys to work out how do we attach these things together and set things up so it isn't going to explode and it's actually going to get there. So prepping everything, making sure everything's nailed down, we know exactly what we need to do. We've got a small group to talk with the comms guys to get the people on their side to set up their field so that it doesn't collapse on the inside, and coordinate that. And then we need the power to make sure this all doesn't come crumbling down.
So that sounds like 3 extra steps there. The science, the communication, and then the actual doing of.
Do it and power, yeah.
Okay.
That sound like enough for us to get enough successes to get over the end of this, or
might do.
Many steps.
I mean, you did a lot of work there with the carving out of the structure far faster than ordinary folks would have, so that saved you some time. Therefore, the next guys should be the guys working the science of how you're going to do this. So, get your best minds on it. This is more than likely going to be some kind of reason and engineering or reason and science.
Right, Alex, how do you want to drive this bit?
Sorry, the way you were directing traffic, I thought you actually had something in mind.
I did, but this is your bit to fluff.
So this is basically the science-related guys, a way of coming up with how to safely action this plan. So, let's see.
So we've got the cutting, the lifting, and then just what the holding, effectively.
So with Orei, warp field dynamics, maybe quantum physics, if you really well, if you want to pull space magic out, quantum physics.
Yeah, because this is be a bit beyond Edwards' skill set.
However,
That's all,
metallurgy, keeping the thing together.
I mean,
Mike, it might be you leading this one and Edward's helping.
what if we magnetise the ores in the crust? Get it to stick to the hull.
Could work.
Interesting.
Or put a large enough charge through it. It would give it at least a vague field.
I'm not sure Orei has got any focuses that could help there, but Edwards does in that case.
It'd definitely be, yeah. Well, I don't know what he's got, but
So it comes down to, it sounds to me like, does Lieutenant Orei mind assisting Edwards with this, because Edwards has got focus?
Not at all.
Okay.
Okay, and as we are still on the, this is still something never been done before, I'm going to vouch for seeing is believing to cross off for a determination on this one.
And I would hesitate to say that when it comes to the actual doing of this, Nova is almost certainly a really good one to have.
Yeah, I was thinking. I mean, if we were making something from scratch, I would say experimental technology would be quite useful, but... would I be able to use that determination, or is that a bit
yeah,
too
that's fine, that's fine.
reach?
I mean...
You could bring Jenny in. Jenny's got Stellar Phenomenal as a... or Starship Radar. Starship Radar isn't going to work, but Stellar Phenomenon is potentially a very large stretch of overcoming the gravitational effect.
Anything to cover. Oh, sorry.
That's right.
What?
No.
Gravity wells are an actual thing, and it's a stellar phenomenon, so overcoming a gravity well is written in the protocol.
I was going to say anything to cast more doubt on the affair she's having with Mr. Bertram according to her husband.
And just for that, I'm going to have Jenny be piloted by Gareth. Using reason and science, if you please, Mr. Gareth.
Science?
And I think
focuses?
the focus is on stellar phenomena. Let's go with the stretch. But let's also have Lieutenant Orei maybe use computers, because you're trying to create a computer simulation. So if Lieutenant Orei can also give me reason and science with a focus on computers, that would be his ability to input into the computer, and we are then going with Edwards's reason and science with the metallurgy or whatever else that we're going with
Actually thinking the physics of it actually is coming a bit more better, because technically if we can get the part of the HAB unit or the module touching the hull, we could use that as the metal conductor, as it's already embedded into the chunk of crust, to be able to pull up or push put a charge through it. It would be a constant loop, because it'd be going back into the ship.
Okay.
Yeah, but ground's not really particularly good at conducting electricity.
That's why we're going
way.
for the metallurgy. We're trying to identify the ores that we could use for it.
Hmm.
I mean, that was the reach already.
So...
And Shaun is dancing around, hello.
Oh, so we've got 1 success, 4 success, 5 successes in total. That's awesome. So, Alex, if I could get you to roll 6d6 for me, please. See how much of an impact.
Did Orei roll?
Oh, no, you didn't.
Nope.
Mike, if you could roll for Orei rather than or for Lorei. Blah, 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 blah.
How do you use
Is
insight?
that -1 threat for getting the letters the wrong way round?
I mean, I've been tempted to ask him, because he's been missing off the title, the new title of the new promoted ensigns.
Let's go with... No, I'm not going to do that. But, yes, feel free to use insight, Mike.
Any focuses?
Computers will do, since you're loading these hypotheses into the computer, so... We'll see if your computer simulations can keep up. Yes! Good lord, that's a lot of successes.
Would it, I'd say
five,
would have been 1 again for assisting.
Team science!
Yes, indeed. So those will all go into consideration when it comes to actually nailing this thing. So,
66.
let's make that 7 now, actually, with all that.
And effects count as extra?
Yes, indeed. You got one effect.
Only a single effect.
Why didn't you
But-
do the challenge dice roll?
You didn't use the challenge dice, but what you got was 1, 2, 3, 4, and one extra. So you didn't make a massive thing, but you did get rid of the
So
difficulty.
5. That's not too bad.
5 was what you needed for another breakthrough. So you made the breakthrough necessary to fix your side. You've got the so you've now got the simulations locked. You know the order of events that need to happen and the amount of power needed for the different systems in order for this to happen. So you are primed and ready. So now it's time for basically the guys to actually execute it. So this will be the engineering guys to yank the thing into the hull of the ship. Just a second, I'm just going to be right back.
Shaun, you happy for a bit of Nova madness?
Can do. What do you want?
I think this is a very daring thing. Do you want to lead or do you want to
Because
assist?
it's feline intervention time. Right, where were you? Off you go then, Devs. What's the idea here? Commander
So-
Bravo and his former commander.
Yep.
Oh, his former chief engineer, I should say.
Question is this a Nova thing to lead or a Vibers thing to lead?
I think fibers. It's more precision.
Okay.
But it definitely needs Nova's input, I think, because when you're going with wild and wacky...
I need a wild, wacky madness person. On top of that, you've got enough gym badges that we might survive.
Just feeding them into the reactor.
No, I'm not using them.
No why Vibers added that coin slot for it.
Well, this definitely sounds like it's going to be a daring and engineering thing from a Nova. The question is it going to be a daring and engineering thing from Chief Engineer Bravo and Commander Kano Vibers?
It probably is from Bravo, and it's probably not from Vibers. Because
Gotcha.
Vibers is trying to keep all this stuff everyone else has set up under control, somehow.
Okay, yep, I'm good with that.
I was elected to lead, not to read.
So one success from Nova. If we can have... I mean, where... No, you guys are going to be going next, so... Gareth, you're up. Commander Bravo, Chief Engineer, please.
Righty-ho.
One dice.
Yeah.
Using... what are we on now? Daring or control and engineering.
Yep. Can I use any of the focuses? Damage control and repair, keep it intact while we're doing this.
Yeah, okay. He would have a good knowledge of what bits are going to break, so...
Okay, can I burn some, can I use some momentum?
Oh yeah, use it. We're at full.
Good. I pulled out the emergency manuals.
By spending 2 momentum, create an advantage. You may re-roll a d20 during the next engineering task. Alrighty.
Ah yes, there's definitely an emergency manual for yeeting something into space.
Right, when
Never
shit
lost
hits the
interest.
fan, you pull up you pull up the builder's manual for what not to do with a tractor beam, and then you go down the list and see you're doing all of it.
Yeah,
What
what did
not to do with the hack unit?
What did Kirk do?
Broke the prime directive, probably.
Yeah, alright, okay, fine. We're breaking the Prime Directive, guys. It's in the manual.
Right.
Well then,
And
control and engineering with an
think-
appropriate focus from Vibers.
it also means that one. Right. And appropriate focus. Composure?
Definitely. Definitely, I can agree with that one. Composure, keeping all these plates spinning whilst not losing them. Wow! Damn! That was 8 successes in total.
And I've got a re-roll, which I haven't needed.
Those 6 impossible fins, are those each success is an impossible fin?
6 impossible things before breakfast.
Still haven't had breakfast.
Can I have 7d6 using the perform challenge button on Vibus's character sheet? 7 dice rolled, please, to see how much of a dent you make. Ooh, look at that. 9 successes, 2 effects.
I can ignore 2 resistance.
You do, because you fill the meter.
4 resistance?
Yeah, so, damn. That was a massive, massive breakthrough. You not only managed to successfully cut the thing out, you cut the plane out, you keep it attached to the chunk of terrain that you needed, you run all the necessary commands and preparations through the computer, and then when it finally comes to utilizing everything that you've just done to achieve what you wanted, there is a very loud, resounding blang that rings the entire ship like a gong, almost. But you managed to scratch. If there is a scratch, it's covered for the time being.
Yeah. Andrews just turns around and glares at him and saying, "That wasn't me."
But yeah, you've managed to successfully, pretty much, attach the bit of terrain onto the Navis. So,
Andrews, they're attached. We've got them secure. Over to you.
Yay.
By the way, Captain, I've attached the base to the ship. I thought you might like to know what the plan was now, since you agreed to it.
So there might be what we call a bit of drag on the ship.
Oh, a bit. So, in this situation, Andrews would actually default back to say that Keval would be the best to lead on this. She would pilot, but he would be the main. Because he's obviously got the understanding of how to get out of an orbit from his piloting skills. So he would talk her through it.
Alright, gotcha. I am going to spend threats to increase the difficulty of this all the way up to 4.
That is if Keval's willing to do that.
Sure. It's all about survival.
And heavens knows these two characters are all about survival, so... Gareth, you're going to once again be the Navis for me, if you please. This is going to burn another point of power, which I have just taken away. This is very much going to be the ship using... now... engines... and con. Now, because of the damage the ship has taken, the difficulty for this and the complication range has already gone up by an extra 1. So it's actually, what did I say the difficulty was? 3? It's gone up to 4 now with increased complication range.
Only rolling the 1 die?
Only rolling the 1 for the Navis, if you please. 0 successes. I didn't even see a dice roll. I mean the animation of the 3D dice.
Yeah.
I may have blinked and missed it. In any case, that's the Navis contributing. So who is rolling 1 dice out of Andrews and Fazanan, and who's rolling 2?
I'll roll 1, as I said.
Okay.
You can't burn the determination to get an automatic 1, can you?
That's what a determination is.
Yeah. Well, yeah. But it rolls as an extra die on top, doesn't it?
It rolls as an extra die on top, but it's a die that's rolled a 1 automatically.
can't just roll a determination die.
Yeah, exactly.
But you should be alright because if the Navis is rolled, and if Andrews rolls 1 dice and uses a point of determination, that's 3, and then if... It'll mean that Keval won't be able to use any more dice than the 2 he will be rolling for the task.
I'll let Keval use his, because then I can cause it to be regened.
Okay.
So we still got it if needs be, if Jan's happy with that.
Sure.
Alright, this is definitely still going to be control and con from both.
Control, con. Form task. Use foci.
This is difficulty 4, remember, you've got 0 successes so far from the Navis, so... With increased complication range. So, ooh!
15!
I'm using my 2nd Legion of Honor, and I shall be using the determination. I'd say dynamic situations need to be mastered.
Oh yes.
Complication range is 2.
Yes. On the money. Wow.
No thanks to you guys.
It's just... So the Mogami has already gone. The incoming asteroids were already part of the difficulty. There is a definite juddering that happens as the Navis starts to pull out of orbit. Mostly the engines are starting, oh well, definitely not starting, they are definitely showing strain. As there's an increase in the whine of the engines. Everybody can feel the vibration in the deck plates as the Navis powers out of orbit, but does so very well, just in the nick of time. There was a moment there when it looked as if it wasn't going to move, thanks to a combination of the wild and wacky conditions in the upper atmosphere on the planet, and the increased gravitational pull of the star. But orbit is broken. That's, unfortunately, when Chief Engineer Bravo comes on the line.
Captain, we have a problem. I'm not sure if it's the strain of what just happened, or if it was from that initial gravitational wave that knocked us. But, unfortunately, we can't form a stable warp field. We've lost warp speed.
Right, okay. Is there a chance to swap back positions now that we're in some sort of stable orbit?
Oh yes,
stable-ish. Okay, yeah. So we'll hand back over to Keval. Do what you can to get the field back up, Commander. Divert as much power as possible to the engines. We'll run on impulse until we can get a stable warp field. It's not going to be pretty.
I'm afraid it's not a case of diverting power, sir. We just can't create a stable field. Readings something to do with the interference coming up of the star. It's not allowing us to create a stable warp field.
But
do what you
impulse
can.
Engines are still working. Yes.
Do what you can to see what we can do to work out what the gravitational anomaly is causing, and what we can do to effectively, if in the worst case scenario, a short jump. It's probably going to put a huge hole through the ship, but we could do that without creating a stable field.
Now, there's that problem. The good news is that Lieutenant Latude, your chief transporter officer, has begun the process of transporting those who were picked up inside of the What was the word you guys used that I've now completely forgotten?
The habitat pod.
Habitat, thank you.
I'd say, yeah, beam them straight to sick bay. And then as soon as they're all off, detach it and just let it drop back.
So that, of course, is causing some additional drag, which is making the impulse engines work that much harder. So there's... Yes, go on.
Edwards, I've got something I'd like you to have a look into while they're... Well, it might help with the power situation. Quite a few years ago, the USS Lovell used a pulse technique to try and get to run under warp speeds. Any ideas if that's feasible or doable?
Interesting question.
Yeah. I think ultimately, anyway, we're going to know how to counter this is to try and work out how is this star affecting the ability to warp.
Well, it's collapsing. It's collapsing. Yeah, it's forming a black hole. Well, it's going supernova, so it's just collapsing everything in initially.
Right, so if incidentally, if I hold down Shift and hold down left click, it creates that odd arrow. Rather than doing the pulse, if I hold down Shift and then do it, it moves the camera to try and center on the point I just...
Yeah, it doesn't do it for us.
Interesting.
I'd need to try and study that quickly. But,
Lloyd Bertram frantically using hyposprays, yes. So, at least as far as sickbay is concerned... Sorry, Gareth.
I said I am at this point.
So the good news as far as sickbay is concerned is that you weren't sickbay wasn't terribly full with many people who cannot be just seen to in the corridor with bumps and scrapes. All of a sudden, a load of people in batches are being beamed in towards sickbay who are still wearing EV suits. So the good news is people haven't suffered any ill effects from like being exposed to vacuum or anything like that, but they have had a rough ride. So it's mostly just people in shock at having been, physically lifted off of the planet into space. So, in the meantime, yes, your problem about lack of warp speed. And the countdown to the stellar collapse is running pretty close.
Commander,
go on.
Is there any chance we can ride the wave when it goes?
I vaguely was starting to think that.
No, that didn't happen. That's the Kelvin timeline.
At the point, it'll be a wave.
Are you certain
if it's going to go nova, it will do because the mass will explode outwards.
But there was this strange reading we got from the thing inside it, maybe draining that.
Good point. Right, there are no more ships flying by, so let me take that away.
Okay, let's... You first, Commander.
Are you talking about the Soran incident?
Go on.
You know the issue with the Nexus and the Enterprise D?
Ah, yes. That happened some
very
years ago. Recently.
Relatively recently. But they almost managed to ride the wave there, where if they not had a warp core explosion, he might have been able to do it. Might be possible.
But this is assuming that there's going to be a wave, like Nova said, is that what's going on here is not natural. Okay, right, let's plan for as best an escape as we can. Start looking into the premise of if it does collapse, if it does blow, that there is going to be a shock wave. The other one is we need to understand what is going to happen with the star. So I think we need to understand that first before we carry on. We'll continue at impulse power until we can try and get some sort of warp field.
We could set ourselves up on a slingshot maneuver.
We could.
Well, what's your opinion?
Sorry, my bird is making noise. I think the slingshot is maybe a safer option, depending on how much time we have. If we can calculate how much time we have, we might know whether we have to do a slingshot or not.
And that also pulls us towards the star, accelerating as we go. You get your extra sensors while we use it to get us out of here.
Ooh, interesting.
We've got a timing issue though.
Yeah. Any complaints?
From the engineering staff, yes. Because the engineering staff are still working to do the repair on the damage to the engines that was done by the last gravitational wave. So the engineering team will probably complain that there's going to be a fair amount of stuff that's going to additional. Oh yes, the tricorder readings. Yes.
That's right.
Okay,
if we get the slingshot maneuver done just right, we'll get lots of extra time.
But my point was that the engineering crew will say, you know, we've taken the Navis has taken blows to its structural integrity thus far, so the slingshot maneuver, while it may work, will put additional stress on the ship's structure. Nova sending tricorder readings to Hello. Yes, Hello is more than happy to start collating those readings. And we'll put them through a translation matrix. Whilst you're on that, actually, sorry to cut any of you guys off before you were going to be doing anything. On a kind of related but kind of a side note, can I get an insight and science check from Nova with... I'm going to go with giving you at least the option of using inner workings as a focus. Can I just get that roll from you, please, Shaun? I won't say what the difficulty is, because it's dependent entirely on 0 successes. Okay. I will say that Nova did notice that whilst you were parked in the Samson, not far from the stationary satellites in orbit of the, I say not even in orbit, the satellites near the star, and you did what you did with trying to send and receive information across whatever this divide was, whatever this anomaly was. As soon as you managed it and got successful response back is when you remember noticing that the instability of the star increased by a factor, by a multiplication factor. So with that in mind, it's entirely possible that without realizing it, by sending this message, or whoever's on the other side, by trying to send an additional message, they may be exacerbating the situation with the star. So, with that in mind, Thoughts?
So the question now becomes, is someone on the opposite side trying to actively open the gate on their side to get out? Do we do that, or do we get out of here?
Get out.
Well, there's one vote for get out.
I think Nova sensed enough familiarity that she'd want to open the gate.
Okay, so there's one for each so far. One for get out, one for open the gate.
We have a responsibility to the survivors and the people we rescued.
There's that.
We also have an accountability to rescue our lost crew member if we can.
There's that too.
That is true.
What do the rest of you think?
Oh, can we take some scans? Would it help to determine if it is in fact opening, or that's beyond our ability?
Try. There are enough people with familiarity with Tilical-based tech, if it is them. It certainly seems to be pointing in that direction currently.
Right. Okay. So there's one for escaping now, one for
escape.
checking it. I want everyone else's opinions before we make a decision.
I'd like to change mine to check in.
Scientific
curiosity.
Yes.
All right. So it seems that's
As interesting and curious as it is, we do have a duty to those who are on board who aren't involved in this decision. We're basically going to be playing. If we take them into this, we'll be playing gods with their life.
we do that on every day. We do that every day.
They already put themselves into this.
I was going to say, no, I'm not talking about the crew, I'm talking about the survivors we're rescuing.
That they are part of Starfleet. They do this on a day. They've already done this as day to day. They put their faith into their commanding structure.
Some of those scientists, most of those scientists were civilians, I'll just point this out now.
They're Starfleet now, though we just deputise them.
I think
20-year enlistment.
Yes, Jan?
we're doing a slingshot maneuver anyway, so the scientists have got until we reach
Yeah.
sort of what's it, apogee to work this out. If not, we're out of here.
I agree.
Okay.
All right. Okay. So, unless anyone is absolutely against it, we'll carry on with the slingshot maneuver. Whilst we are prepping through it, take as many scans as possible, and if there is a way to stabilise it whilst we are carrying on, we will aim to do so. But the primary mission is to make sure that we escape from this area. Ultimately, we are potentially risking everyone's lives on board for one life, plus the lives of those on board the ship of the unknown origins.
Okay. Alright then. So, let's see. Alright, first let's do some science. In regards to... Sorry, I didn't even say it the right way. Let's do some science!
Science!
We love science on this ship. Why I went West Country accent with that, I don't know. We love science on this ship.
Oh.
You buy gum?
Get some sensor readings and that there black hole.
Poor Mike's now gonna be like, where the hell is this accent from?
Oh no.
Anyways, yeah, right, let's think. You want to give a good old look about what might be going on, and if you can help with anything. Okay, this is definitely going to be a good amount of the hypothetical in this, so those with Ouija, technical term, Ouija-woo science, probably in the realms of quantum physics and theoretical sciences and that kind of thing, could
And
give a
infectious
good
diseases.
Plus,
Such a weird combination.
This is just a big virus. I figured it out.
a technovirus of magnificently huge magnitude. That was the word I was looking for. Oof. But also those with Tilical-based technological experience, so Nova, Edwards especially, would probably be good on this kind of thing, because you are looking at it through that lens, it seems. So, hummany hum hum hoo. This is very much going to be very much insight and science with this, I think. Because this, you've got a lot of theoreticals and you've got previous knowledge to go on. So I will allow you to choose either insight or reason, depending on what angle you think your character would come from at this problem. But definitely has to do with science. So, I mean, for Nova, the focus is definitely going to be on the tinkering experimental technology, because that's what she's used before to deal with Tilical tech. Edwards has got ancient technology, and Orei, as we have noted, has got quantum physics. So there's a certain, that's where most of the hypothetical, well, if this is happening, then maybe this will happen as a result. So the next question becomes, if nobody else is joining in, because we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, there's room for a third helper if you want somebody to jump on board. I mean, there's Hello, but Hello would have to delay its translation of the empathic telepathic scans, but Hello does have quantum computing and Tilical technology as focuses. But likewise, Lieutenant Alex Mono, co-head of sciences, does have quantum mechanics as well as subspace mechanics and astrological phenomena as focuses. So those are additional options if you want to take them. So, what you want to do?
Would that help at all?
Having additional dice gives, you know, additional... Oh, rapid hypothesis, sorry. Quick to devise a working theory, but once per scene when you ask 2 or more questions using obtain information. Right. What that means is you will spend a momentum point in order to obtain information. Usually you obtain information after you have made a task roll, because then the obtain information act comes, the information you will get comes from what you just tried to solve, essentially. So you can absolutely use that after you've given me some roll or other in order to attack an issue. So probably the one that we were alluding to. So absolutely, yes, you can afterwards. So are you going with just Orei, Edwards, and Nova, or are we adding anybody else in?
I'd say let's add as many people as we can.
I think we bring Kirsten, because emergency investigation specialist.
Alrighty. Get the kitty cats
This is an
working
emergency
together.
situation, and we are running on the clock to try and see what we can find.
Alright. So that's 2 for the lead, 1 for Kirst, 1 for Nova, 1 for Edwards. Assuming that Orei is going to be lead, so that's your maximum of 5 dice right there. So, let's have... Gareth, you alright with being Cursed?
Just
So Cursed is gonna be bringing in emergency investigation specialist. So once again, reason or insight and science. We'll probably go with our... Well, I don't know, actually. Do we go with our Chief Science Officer as the lead on this, or do we go with somebody who's had direct experience of Tilical tech?
I'd probably say someone with Tilical tech.
As long as Mike's okay with that.
Yeah.
Uh-oh!
It turns out the cursed has been cursed.
Someone want to use a Legion of Honor out of that group? Over.
Anybody?
Over.
Before I utter what that complication might be? Alright then, if we're thinking of a complication to do with the thing that you're trying to collect, it's going to be to do with the information that you get. So...
A 1 becomes a 0.
String?
No, a 1 becomes a 2.
Okay, no, I got it. So,
Well,
if you want to
1.2
use the
in the
Legion of
binary
Honor, it's too late. 19, nothing from Nova, okay. 19 from Nova.
I thought Nova was leading, wasn't she?
No, apparently not. Edwards isn't leading either, so this is now all on the lead, our Chief Science Officer.
We're going to use 2 dice.
2 dice, please.
Yep. And you get to decide how much of a virus this problem actually is.
Nice.
Apparently quite a
Saves
lot.
the day. And gets to use.
Like,
Okay.
oh, you guys have used seen Liku technology before. You don't know what you. Oh my god, what are you doing?
Hey, I got mine right.
Yes, yes, you did. So yeah, Nova and Cursed did contribute, but it seems Edwards was the one who had a brainwave, which Orei was then able to actually put into a working formula, like on the whiteboard, as it were, for working out the quantum physics maths for all of this. The difficulty was 3. You got 1 over, which means that you do generate 1 momentum over the case. You can spend that 1 momentum to obtain information and therefore ask a question. But because of rapid hypothesis, you can ask 2.
Anyone
We
have
get
any
one of
questions?
that group to spend the determination to ignore the complication.
Can we do? I don't think we could.
Yeah, you can spend determination to avoid complication.
You can spend a determination to re-roll the dice that rolled the complication.
Oh, reroll, yeah.
It's fine with me.
So who's it going to be? Well, one hesitates to note that Lieutenant Orei has got a full determination pool currently, so
I guess he'll spend 1.
okay then. So just click on. So you accidentally spent 2. Yeah, for some reason it goes backwards. So
Okay.
if you click, I'll refill your pool. There. Oh no, you did it. It's going up and down.
I click
So-
3.
When you take away, you start at 3. You click on 3. It'll take one of your determinations away. There you go.
Okay. Okay.
So yes, let's use helping hand. He was giving a helping hand, and therefore will allow Gareth to hit the re-roll results button for Cursed 20.
All
Remember,
I want is a
Ensign.
holographic whiteboard.
Remember, Ensign, we don't get complications on the Navis. It'd be a shame if you were transferred to the
Yay.
Combs. I'm talking to Cursed. You're a lieutenant.
So what do we get? What did we get? We got a 10, which is much better. There we go.
It's
Okay.
all thanks to the
It's a
whiteboard.
generic officer as well. It's not even Cursed.
Not sure why it came up as generic officer.
Weird. Never mind. Either way, the roll was a
wait,
10.
you said no complications, so in that case I'll succeed.
Which means you got 2 momentum. So if you want to spend 1 of those momentum to ask me 2 questions in regards to the information that you're about to find out in regards to the what you just hypothesized. Okay. So what do you learn?
Yeah, I think it'd be worthwhile to ask the questions.
What do you learn and what do you hypothesize? Well, if you know that there is a sensor black hole, if you'll forgive the the use of terminology there. You know that there's basically an empty space that the sensors can't penetrate somewhere to the, lack of a better word, left, somewhere to the side of the center of the star, and that seems to be what those satellites were oriented around. So you know there's some kind of gravitational mass within the star itself, which on its own is pretty damned weird, and therefore has to exert some kind of effect on the star. But now that the star has started to destabilize and go into gravitational collapse that much quicker, and something to do with the signal that's coming out, the telepathic signal that's coming out. You have met Tilical technology before that has been fantastically enormous in scope, being able to, finding at least suggestions that, and evidence in a way, that the Tilical technology was able to pull moons from orbit and then fashion them into intricate obelisks, but they also had transporter systems that allowed them to go from planet to planet without having to use starships at all. So it would fit as a hypothesis that whatever is in the middle of this star could very well be using it as a power source.
Exactly.
To what end is not entirely clear, but if what Lieutenant Nova suggests is correct, at the very least, at the moment, it might be getting used as some form of communication medium by breaching layers of subspace. So that's what you currently know, or think you know. So, I actually now have to ask you the question, if you want to use rapid hypothesis, are there any questions on top of the information I've just revealed to you that you think would be worth asking in order to get more information?
You want to have questions?
Yep, because bearing in mind this question has to be precise, and I have to answer it honestly. I cannot lie, I cannot fabricate.
Because mine was, the theory that they're possibly using this as a energy source, transport, so...
If there's the level of familiarity...
Yeah, I get what you're trying to say.
If there is the level of familiarity that Nova has, which suggests that it's the... We've already made contact on one side with this. This is potentially a repeat of what happened when the gateway opened. And it's either the entities that were the big hands, or it was the individuals on the vessels, or the vessel, and our own astronavigations officer. So my thoughts on it were, for one of the questions was, do we believe we could replicate the same kind of gateway based on the layout of the satellites here with what we saw when the previous one opened? That'd be my question. Again, I'm quite happy for the group to argue and tear it apart, and we think of other things.
I think it's a good question.
Go on.
Got another one for your list, which is, with what we know and the Tilical tech that's there, can we make a safe angle to leave the star system? Or can we make a channel that doesn't have any any interference?
That's a good point, yeah, because if we're doing the calculations on a slingshot based on the star's gravitational field, that dark point could actually be the dark matter could be massively interfering with gravity.
Good point.
If we can make it clear, if we know it's going to explode, and we can turn it from an explosion to a claymore mine, if you see what I'm getting at.
So rather than an out in every direction, a focused explosion.
Every direction goes out in one direction. That means we might be able to get out of the system without being a flash of light on the Mugabe sensor system.
Alright, so what's the first question coming at me then?
I think primarily our role is still escape. So the first one would be Navis's question.
Okay.
Would there be a way to focus the energy discharge? I made the question very vague, because you can just answer yes now.
I am going to answer with just yes. But, is it possible? Yes, it is. Because, as you rightly noted, you have seen it happen before. Therefore, you might very well, with this knowledge that it is possible, be able to actually configure some kind of let me think. Probably going to be a tetrionic pulse. I'll give you that for free. That could perhaps encourage. Second question.
So times to ask two crabs think we walk sideways.
No. Do you know what Matt's answer is?
I know, he always says yes.
It's wrong.
You've got the option of asking up to 2. You don't have to actually ask 2.
Well, I still think the other question is worthwhile asking.
So word it for me.
So let's word
Somebody,
it so
anybody?
that it has to be more than a yes/no answer. Let's think of the wordings. That'd be a yes answer.
Well, give me the question, and I promise I won't leave it at just yes.
Okay, so the question is broadly along the lines of, do we believe that this is a second gateway, and can we open it?
Do you believe this is a second
signs
gateway? Yes, you do. Signs are now pointing very strongly to it. Can you open it? Not necessarily, but it looks like it might be doing it by itself anyway.
Exactly like I thought.
So, with the information you've now got, it looks like that this star is collapsing down because all of its energy is being drawn into whatever this is in order to power what you think is a gateway that's about to open. Now, you could make sure that it activates in only one direction, therefore creating more of a focused area that any kind of external force is going to travel, which will allow you to compute your slingshot maneuver more safely. This might enable you, if you time it properly, to be able to form a stable warp field for the briefest moment in order to jump at high warp for like the briefest of seconds, to just give it that hop that the ship needs to get out of dodge, as it were. And hopefully you don't collide with something when you stop. This will not be... Sorry, you were saying?
if it's opening though, do we want? Because we kind of want to be in the area for that. Or
Well, if you give it a short hop, you could maybe make it to the system's edge, and therefore out of the immediate. Put yourself at minimum safe. Well, you could calculate the minimum safe distance you need to be at. But it's a good question. Do you want to be all the way out there if the gateway opens? It's entirely your choice.
I'm thinking, rather than do that, just route the power into shielding to prevent the effects, because we know the sort of energies that's involved in this. So.
Yes, you do, but on the flip side, you also know that they are potentially titanic in size or scope.
Even the Carpathia can't save us from that.
So you're saying I shouldn't go and hop in the sunset?
No.
Go ahead.
No. No. The second that nobody even mentions that is that the hangar bay doors and the transporters are all being locked out.
Alright, so you have potential avenues to pursue. Time is very much running out, so it's going to have to be the decision now as to what's going to happen.
Alright, open it to the group then.
Leave, you can always fire a probe behind you or something if you want to get a better look at what happens after you jump out. Or you could drop a probe now and see what happens to it. And...
Well, if we drop it now, it's just going to get sucked into the
good
sun.
point, sorry. But
even leaving the probe there, it's going to get sucked in. What did we get? Well, we saw what the inside of the star looked like. Woo!
What do folks think? But bearing in mind, time is running out.
We already have something that can collect the data for us, because we've got the remains of the base that we left behind.
Technically.
So that's more likely to survive something on the lines of their black box than anything we leave in orbit.
Alright, yeah. Direct comm link to the station's, or the base's sensor array, and just put it on active record as much information as possible. And then
So
minimum safe distance, because if something does come through, we may need to return.
Okay, so you talk about setting up a remote control activation of the remaining... the word has again left my brain as I was about to say it. The science station, they were going to set up a scanning array to point at the star, but they didn't activate it because they were too busy being archaeologists about it. So you're going to remotely activate the sensors on that scanning station and use that to record the information.
Yes.
Okay. That won't require any task rolls because that's not a difficult thing to do.
And the people who set it up are sitting on our ship.
Well, quite. There's interference to cut through, but you are going to be sending a remote activation command. So that'll be more like a burst transmission that it has got less potential to go wrong. So that's cool. The next thing we're going to need to calculate is your escape trajectory. So, needless to say, your Helm officer with astronavigation is definitely going to be needed for this one, but he's going to need help with these calculations from anyone and everyone who has got any and every possible means of collaborating with this. So, set up your suggestions now.
Our warp field engineer would be pretty useful to have as an assist on that.
Okay. Not that we're talking nepotism here, but, you know.
She's a warp field engineer. It's a specialist field.
Like I said, we're not talking nepotism here.
It's fine.
Well,
This is
dynamic.
Andrews' clone. This is the original Andrews.
Oh.
Is anybody else going to be contributing anything whatsoever to... what's it called?
Someone with quantum mechanics might be useful.
Yep, so we're talking Orei and or...
How about warp field dynamics? That help?
That'll do too.
Yep.
Got that.
So that'll do, so we can bring Orei into this as well. Anybody else want to assist? So that's 1, 2, 3, 4 dice. We're allowed 1 more dice.
Or a determination spend.
Or a determination spend.
Sure. Yeah.
Or
I'll spend 1.
Okay.
What does it
All
do
right.
for us?
give
If
us an
this
automatic
is-
double 1.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, it rolls an
Right.
automatic 1, so it gives you an extra dice with an automatic roll 1.
Okay, I did.
For Stevens, then, she's going to be using Reason and Engineering with a focus on warp field dynamics. Orei is going to be using Reason, and if he's going to be using warp field dynamics as well, that's also going to be Reason and Engineering. But Thazanan is probably going to be using Reason and Con, because he's going to have to use his knowledge of astronavigation to work out the best angles, with assistance from these guys trying to give you the window that you will need to punch this thing into, even if it's just warp 1 for all of a second or so. So... let's have Lieutenant Orei first, because we'll show you how to do the roll with determination if you don't already know how.
I don't.
You don't? Cool. So it's just like performing a task normally. When you
Okay.
click the perform task button, the little window comes out. You can check the box for using focus, but you also check the box underneath for using determination /
Okay.
value. You keep it at number of dice 1, because just ticking the determination box will automatically add that extra dice. You don't need to put that into your calculations.
Oh, okay.
So it's checking 2 boxes and rolling 1 dice, and that's all it is. And we automatically get we already get 3 successes. So if we can get Stevens, Gareth, you all right once again being Stevens? Using Reason and Engineering with a focus of warp field dynamics or propulsion systems would be just as good. 1 success, doing very well so far. So now it comes down to Reason and Con with focus on astronavigation for Keval Thazanan. So 3 successes on top of that goes
That
for
works.
a monumental 7.
I think that's a pass.
Right.
That's the
It might be
difficulty,
a
yeah.
bit close.
It was a difficulty 8. Haha, you all fail.
So
I thought you guys said you wanted to scoop some helium from the
Yeah, we did. Yeah, open the facade collectors and going round would recharge the hydrogen tanks.
screw the Basard collectors. With that roll, you can get close enough that someone could stick their hand out the window with a bucket.
Over?
Yeah. And then the Nova plan, lean out the window and lick the star. What does the star taste like, Nova? I don't know, my tongue's burnt. Well, at least we know one thing, stars are hot.
That's a spicy meatball!
And this is why we have holodecks that pretend to be windows.
Now say that without a tongue. Holodeck.
I can't say it, it doesn't work.
My
Now
tongue
say
hurts too much.
Bouffard collector.
You know
Anyway.
what goes into the holodecks with safety protocols off.
Wait a minute, they can get turned on?
They're off by default, aren't they, these days?
It's
In any
Safe
case.
Castle.
Alright. There is, once again, an audible increase in the whine from the Navis's engines as you also manage to finally put power to the shields, because you're not busy bringing ships or personnel or anything like that on board. So power is diverted to the shields. Power is also diverted to the structural integrity field as per recommendation of the engineering crew. And then, of course, power is going to need to be shunted into the engines as soon as this maneuver is enacted. So, yes, using Lieutenant Orei's phenomenally good calculations with a bit of additional input from Stevens, you're both able to calculate the best point at which you could reach you calculate where the most likely point is where you will have the least amount of disruption to the creation of a warp field, whilst also calculating the exact angle you need in order to shoot yourselves around and get velocity. Which, needless to say, with that many successes, you do, and then some. So Keval performs this over-elaborate maneuver where he starts moving the ship away, cuts power to the impulse engine so that the ship starts to drift back towards the star, and then as the using maneuvering thrusters to turn the ship's nose, for lack of a better term, around, then engages the impulse engines at the last possible, most dramatic moment, and powers the thing around using the star's gravity to slingshot you guys right out of the system. And in no small nick of time, too. As, if I can just find the place I want to take you guys to.
Captain, can you just check if I scratched the ship?
Andrew's
Just its pride.
Andrew's just rubbed part of her hand along one of the deck plates and goes, yeah, you scratched it.
Gets the keys out and just, no one will ever believe you.
Vipers gets a duster, some polish and some repair spray, just cleans up the scratch.
Yeah, Viper's visibly twitches when he sees the scratch.
Poor habit.
You're not on the bridge at the minute, so nah. I will quite happily injure myself to make the deck plate get ripped up. With like,
I'm still in tracked beam control. I haven't managed to leave yet.
Alright, so the ship gains
in fact,
a huge amount of velocity.
Complaints that need dealing with. Commander, would you like to deal with the complaints of the scientists that we've just rescued?
Yeah, sure. I've got a plan.
It involves booze, right?
It involves the crate that we've obviously acquired from their supplies full of illegal contraband.
That's just marked as warp engine degreaser.
No, it's marked up as, it has that crossed out and has a quick stencil over it saying archaeologist supplies.
Archaeological emergency supplies.
Right, the ship.
Negotiation circle.
Nearly everyone on the ship, as the Navis accelerates out, turns to a view screen to witness the supernova. The star brightens at the same time that it begins to collapse inwards, the images dimming automatically in order to keep the rear sight into view. But unlike other supernovas, the star doesn't complete its collapse. Rather, it suddenly pancakes out into a brilliant disc as I change this ambience and take you to this.
Ready.
Is it going to give us a pair of big hands?
The outer edges touching the orbital debris as it does. Alarms begin blaring from every computer as Any stability that your warp field had generated instantly disappears, and the warp core itself shuts into automatic safety. Those monitoring sensors are showing a truly massive and unprecedented subspace rift forming around the stellar remnant. The glowing disk spreads outwards towards the second planet, the unimaginable energies of the collapsed star visibly boiling away the outer crust before the entire planet erupts into neon green lines of tortured space-time. Your ship is thrown sideways as though it was falling towards the events occurring, before just as suddenly everything just stops. Just grab that.
Oh.
There is no stellar remnant, no expanding plasma cloud, no planetary debris, nothing besides the remnants of a ripple in space-time.
I get the feeling we don't need those sensor records anymore.
We might have got a little bit.
And around about this time is when a certain robotic helper speaks up.
Unit Nova. This unit has completed the translation. It reads, Tilipal, help us. Please.
And so, you are left with the Mogami makes its way tentatively over to the Navis after apparently it detected on its sensors what happened. The Navis had made enough speed that when it did jump momentarily into warp just before that event happened and knocked it out of warp, the Navis was able to drift towards the edge of the system and outside of any danger, therefore allowing the Mogami to get a read on the Navis, and it comes in alongside and they offer assistance. Needless to say, the archaeologists aren't happy about their missing data and about their missing artifacts and equipment, but all things considered are extremely grateful, particularly the ones that were, for lack of a better word, airlifted off of the planet physically. The chief archaeologist, if I can remember his name, Dr. Mitchell Al-Malki, however, does seem to still be very disappointed in losing all of the precious artifacts and whatever data was left behind.
I'm quite happy for him to take it up with Starfleet Command on that one. And at the same time, if he wants to argue it, I'll turn around and say that his team were probably responsible for the destruction of an entire stellar field. So, you know, tit for tat. You want to play that game?
I'd also like to point him at the current map and go, "You're welcome to go find it on the... Oh, the planet's gone."
Yeah.
So, you did. Sorry, go on.
When the gateway opened, was there any Was there anything that came out so far? So any kind of psychic signatures that we've experienced previously, or was it just purely the disc?
There was a momentary blast, I should say, of psychic transmission, which everybody who has any telepathic or empathic abilities definitely felt. For Orei, only some Deltans have got empathy, so
He's got empathy.
yeah, that was probably a big wah moment as there was a sudden big surge of voices that came at everybody with any kind of telepathic or empathic talents. Nova had already experienced this by having been so close up, so it was essentially another big blast of that transmission that Unit Hello had just translated.
What was it that Hello actually said? I didn't catch it.
You didn't catch it all?
No, it was
Tilical,
something about-
help us, please.
So say.
Hal, what do you know?
If you're talking to Hal Thompson, who comes later, he professes he has no knowledge about anything about what just happened. His job is part of the Corps of Engineers, and therefore his job was to help assemble and then later disassemble all the equipment that was needed for the scientific operation to be conducted down on the planet. He's just as shocked as anybody else.
Were any of your people missing?
No?
Oh, was it not Tilical rather than How?
It was Tilical. Tilical, help us, please, was the message.
Yeah.
Ah, cool.
Just in case anyone wonders, yep, there it is right there. Not coming from him,
So,
but that's how you spell it.
we now need to understand of what were the race that were here before.
And if you ask any of the civilian archaeological teams, they will tell you that the archaeology they found beneath the surface of the second planet does mirror similar things that you found actually on SETI Alpha 5. The statuary was the same. Interestingly enough, Dr. Al-Malki also does note that he was overseeing the few artifacts that had managed to make it back onto the Navis, just to make sure that they were all safe. But he did notice that as the event happened when the gateway opened, the rescued objects began to glow with streamers of blue light that then ceased the moment the gateway closed. And so, with more questions than answers, that's where we're going to be bringing tonight's episode to a close. That's the end of this episode as well as this session, so that means a claim to be sorted and milestones to be doled out. And yes, the Tilical have actually announced themselves now, it seems. But, so long and thanks for the mumbles lore. Well, yeah. We're going to have to create our own Numbles lore now, aren't we? So, yeah, thanks for tuning in as usual, Suitable Substrate. Nice to always have you along. So, unless there's anything you guys want to make note of right now in regards to what you guys have just discovered, you can do so now, or we can wait until afterwards and just put it as a note to show that your character's going to be doing stuff in the downtime between the end of this episode and the start of the next one. Entirely up to you. But if there are no immediate announcements... Numbles, yes. That was it. Although I mumbled Numble, so... Mumbling Numbles. I'm going to stop this tangent before I go any further. In that case, if there's nothing else, then I am going to wish everybody who... Well, I'm going to first thank everybody who tuned in to the stream very much. Thanks for taking part in this with us, as always. For those who are watching this on YouTube later on, thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed this as much as we did taking part in it, then give us a like so that it helps not only us, but everybody else who does anything Star Trek related and actual play related, because it gives us a bit more notice to our Lord and Master, the algorithm. Everyone together. All hail the algorithm.
I love it, Alex was like half a second behind everyone then.
It's microphone echo, that's all it is.
Definitely was.
I wish everybody to live long and prosper, and remember to do as the Vulcans do. And no, I don't mean have a Vishal dinner so that you can meet your prospective in-laws. I mean to practice infinite diversity and infinite combinations. Be kind to everybody, especially in these crazy, crazy times that we all live in. Look after yourselves. And we will see you when we see you next, which will more than likely be the same time, same place next week. There won't be our usual gap in between episodes, because we had a very long gap between the start and end of this episode. So I'll be making it up to you all by having us on time, usual time, next week. Everybody's available for next week?
Yep.
Should be.
Excellent. In that case, we will see you all next time. See you
Same bat
all.
time, same bat channel.
Indeed. Hailing frequencies are now closed.